Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one, the only, Kara Swisher. Kara, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for hanging out. We had a pack, a lot of. I saved the best for last.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Kara, she's sitting back there. I'm sitting back there. I'm sitting back there. Well, you'd be sitting back there no matter when you came on because you'd have to stay for the rail wheel. So you're kind of fucked.
All right. Okay.
Microphone.
Sorry. Yes, here I am.
You're podcast professional.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry.
I have 3 topics for you.
Okay.
I'm sliding back because
Right.
you have a kind of the confident relaxed posture of a powerful lesbian.
Yeah. Okay. Does that trigger you?
It intimidates me.
Really?
Intimidates me. Yeah, I find you
You're
incredibly intimidating.
Okay.
You're famously intimidating.
That's ridiculous.
You think that's ridiculous?
Yes,
you think
I
saying
do.
Kara Swisher is intimidating is a
Yes.
ridiculous sentence?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I have 3 topics for you. I love this. I actually been looking forward to this for a while. I love this.
Okay.
I really do.
Yeah.
But you're still giving me fucking nothing. All right.
I know. Okay. I could beat the shit out of you, but go ahead.
I have 3 topics for you.
Low bar.
Section 230.
Yeah.
AI
All
and
right.
Elon. All right.
Okay.
Briefly. Here
All
we
right.
go. First, Section 230.
Yes.
On the one hand, it made the modern internet possible.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it made the modern internet possible.
Yes.
You've been following Section 230 from the very
have.
beginning. It predates the modern internet in a lot of respects.
Sort of. Yeah.
Well, it predates the kind of algorithmic
Sure.
Google world, right?
Right.
This is something that was done to kind of protect the early internet companies when people were
Yes.
first figuring out how to post.
Yes, because they were getting sued.
Because they were getting sued.
Yeah.
Can you just explain briefly what the current debate over Section 230 is? Then I want to kind of dive into it a little bit.
Well, the one on the Supreme Court?
Just even before we get to the Supreme Court, so people understand just the broadest of strokes what Section 230
Section
is.
230 is 26 words, I think. It's a very short thing. It was part of a bigger bill called the Communications Decency Act, which I won't go into, but Fawn Hall was involved from Oliver North, and they were trying to clean up the internet from child pornography. But most of the Communications Decency Act was declared unconstitutional, except for this one section. And so what it does is it just gives, in a very simple case, a very broad immunity for these platforms. And so if you wrote something libelous, you were responsible, not the platform, not AOL or whoever. And it's because there was several cases. There was one, I think it was Prodigy versus someone or other. And so they got sued a lot. And so they would have been sued out of business because people put all kinds of things on there. And so it protected them, gave them broad immunity to have these open platforms, and would encourage them to moderate them too, because in moderation, they would have been liable without this law. And so it was a good thing to protect them to grow.
Right. That's a really important point, right?
Yeah.
So right now, a lot of the debate about Section 230 is around, hey, why won't these internet companies, why are they leaving this horrible stuff up?
Right.
But when it was first passed, it was that companies were afraid to take things down. They were afraid that if they took something down from the internet
or
leave them up,
Yeah.
suddenly it would mean they were kind of being editorial.
That's correct.
And if they did any kind of moderation
Yes.
at all,
Yeah.
suddenly they'd be liable for anything anyone said anywhere on the internet.
Right.
And if they were liable for something
On their platform.
platform,
Right. Yep.
if they were liable for something on their platform, that would mean that there'd be a little bit of there'd be a sense that before anything goes up, somebody would have to see it.
Right, and so it was onerous from a financial perspective too. This stuff was flooding. It's like a tsunami of information, and as it got bigger, it was even more. And so they passed this law, and it was very useful. These companies got huge, and they weren't sued in any way. And then there started to be little bits around sex trafficking and different things like that, and people lost their minds about that. And now these cases are about terrorism, essentially. And so are the platforms responsible for the terrorists who post on it and then make people angry and then create terrorist acts, et cetera, et cetera? And so that's what this one's about, these two cases.
So
one's Twitter, one's Google, and one's Twitter.
And there are differences between the two. So just to step back for a second, they were always they couldn't leave illegal things up, right? You couldn't have crimes taking place on the platforms.
Correct. They've left them up, but yes.
But they're not supposed. They're not protected.
Certain things, there's violence, et cetera, they're supposed to take down.
But what's happening now in front of the Supreme Court is people are testing how far Section 230 goes
Right.
with respect to incitement to violence.
Should we take it out should we sideline it the way they did sex trafficking? Should there be, they're trying to chip away at it and get some kind of ability to sue these companies.
And I have to say, like, I don't know I'm curious what your perspective is, but in just listening to this, to the arguments unfold in front of the Supreme Court, I can't think of a group of people I am less excited to be in charge of this topic than those 9 fucking lawyers.
Can I just say they don't want to be in charge of it
they don't either. They don't want to touch
Elena
it.
Kagan was sort of going for comedy. It's like there couldn't be 9 worse people to decide this. And by the way, they all agreed. Every single one of them for the first time were like, even Clarence Thomas was like, this ain't our stuff. I don't even understand this. That
doesn't usually stop him.
That is true. But I have to say, he happened to be... He actually was like, okay, he's not stupid when I was listening to him. All of them seemed to say, this is Congress's. Why is this in front of us? Of course, they accept it as a case, but they don't want to, they don't think they should. They were trying every which way, not from Judge Jackson to Alito, they all seem to agree, like, what the fuck seemed to be the general
and so just
legal definition of what was happening.
Stepping back from this, so just what everyone understands, what's happening is basically the question is, okay, all these companies have a kind of protection that no other companies really have, right? Like there's no other law that says, hey, if somebody uses your product to hurt people, you're not responsible. Just the person who used it is responsible.
The gun manufacturers, but okay,
sure. But just in generally speaking, in terms of speech, they have an extraordinary amount of protection for what happens.
They do.
And the Supreme Court, it's interesting. It feels as though everyone, Congress, people think about this question. It is a really tough, thorny, difficult topic.
You can't remove it. It would collapse the internet.
Right. So if you remove Section 230, the internet collapses because they
under
can't.
Lawyers and lawsuits and everything.
But at the same time, everyone recognizes that the current system isn't
working. And so there's other ways to do it. You have passed privacy legislation, which Europe certainly has, California has, but our Congress doesn't seem to be able to do in, 20 years. You pass antitrust legislation. There was a very good bill by Amy Klobuchar that, Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell shoved in the back of the closet, even though it was supposed to be passing. There's a transparency bill that also Klobuchar was involved in. There's all kinds of bills that you could attack the problem through their advertising and data thievery, and they don't.
Right, but I'm just curious what you think about this, because I've heard you talk about this, I've heard other people talk about it, this idea that, like, we should do antitrust. I believe that. We should definitely have a privacy law. I agree with that. But these seem like bank shots.
They're not. A privacy bill goes to the heart of their business plan. The issue is their
business plan. But that's what I mean, right?
Right.
But what that does is, as a bank shot, it says a business plan based on attention.
Right.
Because it's about keeping you on the platform a long time.
That's right. And so they spend a lot of time not taking things down that are,
because extremists.
I've said this to you a million times. Engagement equals enragement. That is what happens.
But what I'm saying is that is a means of trying to get these companies to build algorithms that are less focused on sensationalism, misinformation, and propaganda. No, I support it completely. Yeah. But it is a way of trying to get these companies to address this issue on the core issue we're discussing, which is basically where their responsibility for having a safe internet
I'm talking about
begins.
All of them together. Like, they have to pass an antitrust bill, so you create all kinds of competition. They have to pass a privacy bill, because I can't fucking believe the United States of America doesn't have a basic privacy bill. A transparency bill, what's going into these things? What are you seeing? What data are you getting? What is the impact? And then a transparency of, things like, what is the actual effect on teen girls? Let's not just talk about it and pontificate about it. What is it? What's happening? What are you seeing? And so you start to do that, and you create a situation. Like, look, they didn't put away Al Capone on what he did. They put away on taxes. There's other ways to get at these companies in a significant way versus taking away something that will just wreck the internet for everybody.
The question that popped up during the Supreme Court debate, which I do think is an interesting and it's an important question, maybe to your point, not one that these people or even Congress essentially answer, is when does their kind of when do they stop being a platform? When do they stop being basically pipes? And when do they start becoming editorial in terms of their algorithms?
There's more cases coming. There's obviously the Texas case where they think that, the problem is the Republicans think they take down too much and the Democrats think they don't take down enough. And so there's all these First Amendment issues that are going to come up. These people have no business doing any editorial. They're literally as close to illiterate as it gets for educated people. Yes, yeah. And so they're making major editorial decisions when they have no qualifications. And they're sort of like, okay. It's literally like that all the time.
Can you just preview, because I don't think people understand this. So there was a sense, I think, out of what's been happening in the Supreme Court. Wow, there's like it's actually an interesting case. It doesn't seem ideological. It's not a 6-3 decision. There's a bunch of interesting questions that all the judges seem to be asking. They're kind of in alignment here.
They're going to toss them.
And they're going to toss them. But there are cases coming. So these cases are about, hey, you shouldn't have left this stuff up.
Yeah.
But the Texas case is about Texas' ability to say, hey, you're taking too much stuff down. And that's a case where Clarence Thomas, for example.
Yeah, that's his thing.
But he's been the vanguard for what the conservative court has done.
Part of it, he thinks they should be utilities and should be treated like utilities. And that's a whole different thing. He has a whole utility theory that's kind of stupid. But the idea is that they're utilities and should be regulated like utilities, which is different than how other companies are regulated.
But that is what it means to repeal 230, right?
That's not what's going to happen. Those cases will probably get thrown out too, because on First Amendment grounds, companies have First Amendment rights too, and they can decide what they want to do, and they just say, we just want to take it down because we feel like it.
And what happens when Clarence Thomas says, well, the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law, and that Texas is free to do this?
It's just not going to go anywhere.
Okay, well, that's reassuring.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about AI for a second.
Sure. Which one?
You did a fascinating interview with someone named Trey Stevens.
Yep.
About
defense.
About defense. Now, we've had a lot of fun. We've done it. There's Biden AI. There's people who are, hey, ChatGPT, give me a poem about
whatever
diarrhea in the style of E. Cummings, and it's like, wow, that's cool. For example.
Yeah.
And there's 100 other ideas.
I'm so glad Saturday night must have been fun at your house. Go ahead. Sorry. I'm sorry. Are you taking a Sempic? You look great.
God, she just, it's as if she's doing the fucking game at me. She's negging me. She's peacocking. Yeah. And you know what? It's working. I'll follow you wherever you want. You've got me on the hook.
I just did an interesting interview with Audie Cornish, and she said, I treat men like men like some men treat women. So.
Is that what you think this is?
No, this is just a flat-out negging. So.
It's called negging. Is just another word for bullying. You bully me.
Oh, stop it!
You love
my
bullying
God.
me.
He's
you
triggered.
love bullying me.
I don't.
You don't. Then why do you do it?
No, because it's so easy.
Unbelievable.
You look great, Ozempic.
I'm not on Ozempic. I wish.
I know you're not. I know you like to poop.
I know how do you even get it?
Those of us who like to poop are not on Ozempic. But go ahead. Whatever.
So no, but I look. You had this conversation.
Yeah.
Trey Stevens, he started a company that is making these AI weapons.
Yeah.
And I found that conversation chilling, specifically in the way that he euphemizes, like he euphemistically, I don't know if euphemize is a word, he euphemistically refers to what they're trying to do. And there was a moment when he describes trying to take the dirty tasks away from people, which presumably meant shooting people.
That's correct.
And what was your reaction to having that conversation?
Well, I think one of the things you have to realize is, look, everything that can be digitized will be digitized, and that includes defense. And there are a lot of mistakes made in defense by people, right? And so his concept is the correct people will be killed if we do it this way versus sort of spray and pray, which is a lot of the ways they do this now from far away. And so the idea is we will hit the exact spot if AI is in charge versus humans. That's really what it said. And they have all kinds of things. It's not just that. It's surveillance stuff. It's, essentially it's just selfie sticks across the border watching things. They go to places they shouldn't go. Things are cows and then they send out a team. Every time you send out a team, it's dangerous. And so you know more about what's going on using AI. The same thing's happening whether it's radiology. Radiologists are kind of useless at this point. AI reads it better. And so what will AI replace is things that are often can be digitized, and that's why you're getting all the attention around ChatGPT, which is, I'm having a problem with the media coverage of it because there's two strains of stories. One is college students are going to do term papers. I'm like, you're kidding. College students cheat on term papers. I've never heard of such a thing.
You did such a great Mid-Atlantic accent. It was there was like a Hepburn out here for a second.
Thank you. And then the other one now is and it's, I hate to say it, it's all male reporters trying to date this AI. And so, and get them into, like, they're in a version of Her. Remember Her?
Yeah, I remember it.
Which I hated that movie. I ran into Spike Jonze. He goes, Kara, I want to know what you think. I went, And he's like, what? I go, what? Fall in love with the AI. Wow, what an incredible breakthrough you had there, Scott.
You know, my problem is with the movie Her. People don't know this. So Scarlett Johansson played Her. Scarlett Johansson was a recast. They had Samantha, whose name is escaping me, Morton. Samantha Morton was on fucking set in a hot box with Joaquin Phoenix. She did the entire role on set.
Yeah.
In a little fucking booth, boiling, doing the performance in
happened?
full. Joaquin Phoenix reacts to Samantha Morton. They finish the full shoot. They fire Samantha Morton, hire Scarlett Johansson, who spends 3 days in an air-conditioned ADR booth somewhere in Los Angeles. The performance that Joaquin gives is 100% based on the performance he got from Samantha Morton, and she's erased from fucking history.
Oh, dear. It still sucked. The movie still sucked.
Just always bothered me. There's something wrong with that.
Okay.
It's like,
really?
People need to be able to picture the hottest actress from Avengers.
In any case, the coverage is that. And it's so they're trying to do edge cases. They're trying to do edge cases of ridiculousness when actually it's quite serious what's happening here. And so I think the media is doing disservice because there's all sorts of really fascinating things that are going to happen through this decision making. It's already been written a lot about judging and on judgments and criminal things. It's around insurance, around grading, around job listings. It's going to start to really infect everything, both good and bad. It's sort of the beginning of the internet, and we cannot conceive of the things. Like if you would, someone years ago when the internet started, they said, Kara, what's the internet? I said, everything. And they're like, what do you mean? I go, everything. I don't know what to tell you. And this is everything. And so it's a question of what will it replace. And it'll probably replace most rote things. It's not going to replace you, John. It's just not. It's not. It's not. It's
nice
stupid to think that way. And that's where the media goes initially. And creativity is very hard to replace. All it is, what you're hearing is you talking back to us. Like, so it's a reflection, not you in particular, but the data is us. We are the data. And it's just essentially plagiarizing us and reassembling it. And that's what it's doing. And if you think of it that way, it's a very different thing.
Yes, I agree with that, though I do think it's a fuzzy line. I mean, in a lot of senses, what we do, what creativity is synthesizing what we experience in the world and making something new from the things we've seen and heard, right?
Sure, but they're really good plagiarists and not that good at it. And so to think that it's sentient, it's not. It's not sentient. It's not sentient. It's not.
I do one question. One thing that I always think about. I thought about it when I was listening to the interview with Trey Stevens, who was very, very careful. It had just my feeling of listening to that conversation. It has the sense of someone who in 15 or 20 years will apologize for what they were doing during this period of time. But what I was struck by
I wouldn't agree because I think defense has not bathed itself in glory of how it conducts war now.
Well, this is the point I want to ask.
So random and
this is
mistakenly.
This is putting this one example aside. It's interesting the way in which how differently we react to human mistakes versus AI mistakes. There was that plane that it landed poorly a few years ago at San Francisco, and it hit the ground really hard, and 2 people died. And I remember some experts saying if it had been raining and foggy, if the weather had been terrible, everyone would have been alive because the pilots wouldn't have landed themselves. The plane would have landed itself.
Right.
And I remember when Elon started talking about the fact that we were 6 days away from permanent self-driving cars in 2015.
Yeah.
But what I remember thinking is like at some point someone's going to point out how many pets get killed by cars every year.
Sure.
Do you see? When is the point at which we hold AI to a higher standard now?
It can't make any mistakes.
But people can.
Yes.
Do you think that is going to change?
Yeah, I think after a while. I think, they talk about like accidents with AI or look, it's not, listen, I have to tell you, Elon's not telling you the truth about when it's coming, just so you know. It's not coming for a very long time.
5 people just died of shock.
I know. Pretty much everything out of his mouth now is somewhat of a lie or a really offensive thing. But I think it will be able to make things. But one car, using, say, self-driving, this is in the future, makes a mistake, all the cars learn. When human makes a mistake, nobody learns, just that human. And they don't really learn. They do it again and again and again. And so I think that's what's powerful about it. But it's very similar to when the internet started, when there'd be a story about everyone who has a website. You remember those, so-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
When there's an accident with AI, it will be much rarer. People are a real problem behind the wheel. They are. Yeah. They just are. They shouldn't be doing it. And then you can text and drink while you drive. So.
And that's when we'll win everybody over.
Yeah.
As Halle Berry said in the film Cloud Atlas when she was looking through her...
You watched that. Wow. What do you like? Watch all the bad movies?
As Halle Berry said in the film Cloud Atlas, which is good,
all right.
She is looking through a stack of papers, and a character says, "What are you looking for?" And she says, in an actual sentence that's meant to be what a person would say, "I'm trying to figure out why we keep making the same mistakes."
What? I don't even understand that.
Doesn't make any sense.
This is like listening to Tar, but go ahead. What happened there? I was waiting for her to make out with a woman.
You're supposed to love that movie.
I hate it. There was no making out with
Speaking
Kate
of
Blanchett.
Elon, before I let you go,
Carol was another thing that was
Elon emailed you. Your Netflix for you is just Kate Blanchett as a lesbian.
Yeah. She does
over and over and over again.
Yeah.
We have different for you pages.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the beauty of the algorithm. Elon Musk.
Yes.
He emailed you and he called you, quote, an asshole.
Not quote. He called an asshole. Yes.
He called you an asshole.
You're an asshole was the subject line.
Have you spoken since?
No.
And now you have since said that basically...
We talked a lot, by the way.
You used to talk a lot, and that was the last correspondence you had.
Yes. He's done it before, but not... Well, he's done it before. We had a situation 4 years ago.
And the point that you've made is you're not interested in talking to him.
No, because now I have an ending to my memoir, but go ahead.
And also, you were upset by the fact that he issued this horrible smear of
Paul
Pelosi, basically spreading this Don Jr. gay, anti-gay, ridiculous made-up stuff. Especially now that we've seen the video, which I refuse to watch because I don't watch those videos.
Yeah, well.
One thing, just my last thing, but we've checked in on this from time to again. I have found it impossible to defend the proposition that Elon Musk is a moron on the internet, but a genius in real life. Do you still believe that proposition?
Oh, people are the stuff he's doing around SpaceX and Tesla is under siege from other cars. That's gone. That's going to be gone in 5 years because everyone's catching up. He's got a manufacturing and technology advantage right now, but it's not going to last. So that's over. He's got to really compete there. With the rockets, the stuff he's doing is amazing. It's really quite amazing. He's lowered the price. Oddly enough, I was at this party in Washington, and a top Ukrainian official came up to me and says, "How can you help us get Elon to stop geofencing things?" And I was like, he thinks I'm an asshole. Can't help you. But that's where we are that's where we are, that they're asking me to convince him not to geofence them. He's got power you cannot understand. Like right now, with Starlink and the rockets and the cars, he's really powerful and an important player on the scene. That's okay. But as a person, he's given in to what was 10% of his personality is now almost 99%, which was really vile. And here it is. It's out. And he has enablers around him at all times who are all paid by him, who don't tell him the truth. And oddly enough, I've had a lot of people close to him call me and say, "Thank you for doing this. It might have an impact, but I don't think it will at all."
Yeah, I think it's similar.
That's not what got me mad. He called me an asshole because I retweeted a Washington Post story that said...
You were defending him.
I was defending him.
And he didn't see the second tweet.
No,
what the fuck? Whose phone is that? My mother?
Yeah.
Is that mom's phone? Are you fucking kidding me? You fly all the way here to fuck up my show? Mom?
Is mom here? In any case, I think it's a shame. It's a shame, and he's either moving towards Howard Hughes territory, which I think could be, and he's actually taking Ozempic. He talks about it actually, or whatever. Wegovy. Well, okay, sure.
I mean, better than before.
Well, that was that wasn't good, but he's either moving toward Howard Hughes territory, or he will succeed again. And a lot, like I just interviewed Mark Benioff 2 hours ago, and he was like, well, there are good things. He can land a rocket on a surfboard. I'm like, and be racist and misogynistic and homophobic. And he's like, well, people are, there's two sides. I was like, I don't think so. It's really going to be hard. We'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes.
Kara Swisher.
No problem.
I love to see. I didn't say thank you.
Thank you.
Kara Swisher, I love to see. Thank you so much for being here.
No problem.
That was great.